So Ukraine just launched the largest drone attack of the war against Moscow, bringing the war home to the residents of the Russian capital city. And this is just the beginning. This wasn't a lucky strike. It was the result of months of slowly degrading Russian air defense across the country to where Putin can no longer protect everything everywhere. I mean, as Moscow burns, Ukraine also carried out strikes against high-value targets like Russian trains, ships, and command posts in the occupied territories. This is what a turning point in the war looks like. All of a sudden, Russia has found themselves in the back foot trying to react to Ukrainian operations. So let's get started with where things sit this morning. The commander of the Ukrainian Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Madyar, last night put out a note saying, quote, "Moscow never sleeps." He said the situation has equalized. The one-sided subscription to a quiet life in the Patriarch Ponds and the surrounding area has been canceled. Patriarch Ponds is a fancy neighborhood in Moscow, and this goes to the social contract that Putin put in place at the beginning of the war. This was well articulated in a piece in the Carnegie Endowment earlier that I'll link below by Alexander Bonov, where he says the agreement here essentially was you can live outside of the war, but you cannot be against it. So those in Moscow felt like they were outside of the war and weren't going to face any repercussions so long as they kept their mouths shut. What Ukraine is showing now is that Moscow is very much in the middle of this war. Ukrainian President Zelensky said, quote, "Our responses to Russia's prolongation of the war and its attacks on our cities and communities are entirely justified. This time, Ukrainian long-range sanctions reached the Moscow region, and we are clearly telling the Russians their state must end this war. The concentration of Russian air defense in the Moscow region is the highest, but we are overcoming it." And that's the big takeaway here, is not just that some Ukrainian drones got through, but a lot of drones got through, some in broad daylight, in the most heavily protected region in the entire country, across the entire country of Russia. Russian media Rybar said, quote, "The capital region has been under the heaviest drone attack since the start of the special military operation since the middle of the night. Civil infrastructure in 5 districts of the region came under fire, as well as the vicinity of the Moscow oil refinery, with casualties and injuries reported." The Russian Ministry of Defense said that they shot down 1,054 Ukrainian drones in a 24-hour period. That is a staggering number, right? That is a ton of drones getting through. Too much for, in this case, Moscow's air defenses to deal with. Russian mill blogger Alexander Kot said, quote, "For the first time, the number of downed long-range drones exceeds 1,000. On average, every hour over the past 24 hours, an average of 44 drones were shot down. Our anti-aircraft gunners, mobile air defense units, and drone fighter pilots are, of course, doing a great job, but we cannot fail to note the increase in the enemy's strike capabilities." Those strike capabilities we've slowly seen them evolving over the course of the last couple of years, and I feel like we blinked, and in 2026, the first few months of this year, it is a shocking difference. We have sustained long-range, effective strike campaigns inside of Russia every single day. Yesterday, there were like 3 different instances of strike campaigns carried out inside of Russia that would have been notable like once a month a few years ago. 3 of them yesterday alone. In fact, the Ukrainian SBU put out a note, seems like they're the ones responsible for the strike in Moscow last night, where they said, in cooperation with the Special Operations Unit, they hit a military-industrial complex and a number of oil facilities in the Moscow region. They said in Moscow, they hit, and I'm going to put this up on the screen because I'm going to butcher every single one of these terms. They said they hit the Angstrom plant, which supplies semiconductors for the Russian military-industrial complex and is under U.S. sanctions. They said they hit the Moscow oil refinery. My understanding is that is one of, if not the most heavily protected location in all of Moscow. It's up there with how significant this is. So for multiple drones to get through and strike that facility is saying something. No chance on these two. The Sonorekstaya oil pumping station and the Vodoskoy oil pumping station. There's a reason those are on the screen. I didn't stand a chance of getting those right. Now, on top of this, again, this is what I want you to get out of this is it's not just a drone happened to make its way through and Russia didn't notice it. Their air defense systems were overwhelmed. And Ukraine has the capabilities now to not just focus, weeks or months of production and operations on Moscow, but at the same time, they carried out significant operations in Crimea. Not just the country of Ukraine, the SBU, the same unit carried out 2 major long-range strike operations in a 24-hour period. The SBU also said in temporary occupied Crimea, the infrastructure and air defense systems of the Belbek airfield were hit, including the Pantsir anti-aircraft system, a hangar with the radar for the S-400, the Orion UAV control system and four-post UAV control ground station, and a ground-to-air data transmission system, and a control tower at the Belbek airfield. They say these strikes demonstrate that even the most protected Moscow region is not safe. Again, one drone getting through. Go back a couple of years in this war, and there was one drone that would sneak through. It was like, what on earth happened? And everybody kind of panicked. Now it is overwhelming drone fires in multiple areas of the front at once. And Russians are noticing this, all right? So Dmitry Rogozin, a Russian senator and former head of Roscosmos, said, quote, "Do you think there will be fewer of them? No. Their numbers will grow and their routes and tactics will evolve. They will probe for gaps and vulnerabilities in our defenses, overload the country's production and technical capabilities for anti-aircraft guided missiles, each costing several million rubles, with their foam drones, and concentrate their strikes on one or several regions, identifying their targets in advance using space reconnaissance and ground intelligence. Ultimately, they will launch comprehensive strikes using long-range drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and FPV UAVs, which will be delivered to the attack site by any means necessary, by hook or by crook, with the help of sabotage and reconnaissance groups. This is what will happen." And we're seeing this point where they're trying to suppress some of this in Russian media, and it's just not working. So some of these mill bloggers, war commentators are pushing back, saying this is just getting ridiculous. And we've seen this time and again over the course of the last couple weeks. Mill blogger Romanov pushing back just yesterday. So this was a different attack. But he said, quote, "If you see something with your own eyes that contradicts the statements of official sources, don't believe your eyes." Last night, so he's talking about 2 nights ago, the debris from a kamikaze from Ukraine attacked the largest chemical industry enterprise in southern Russia. According to the governor, there is no damage. There were pictures of the place on fire. So Romanov added sarcastically, quote, "Only trust official sources." And that is getting harder and harder for Russia to go with. Again, we've seen this issue on the battlefield. We've got a video coming in the next couple of days where Russia once again is claiming significant progress in areas that they just haven't taken. Now, they can lie about that, and that's going to impact their effectiveness at the front. But the citizens back in the rear don't really know, right? They can't parse through that any different than an audience around the world can. And maybe they see through it, maybe they don't. But when they're telling their citizens that everything is fine and we're intercepting everything over Russian skies, but they see a refinery next door on fire, or are able to walk outside and videotape Ukrainian drones and cruise missiles flying overhead in broad daylight, that's a little bit harder to keep contained. Now, again, I want to stress the reason that we are seeing this is because Ukraine has focused so heavily on destroying Russian air defense systems over the course of the last months, 12, 18 months, we'll say. I mean, they always have gone after Tor, Pantsir, S-400, etc., but we really saw a spike in the last 9 to 12 months. What that has done is that Ukraine is taking out Russian air defense systems faster than Russia can replace them. So already, Russia did not have enough. It's a massive country. They did not have enough air defense systems to protect everything across the country fully. Some risks had to be assumed. All right. And to be fair, same issue in the United States right now. All right. The proliferation of these long-range drones and how cheap they are is a major problem and something we need to resolve here as well. So Russia did not have enough air defense systems. Ukraine, at the same time, built out longer drones, built out more of them, made them more effective, and started taking out Russian air defense. So Russia, in the span of the last few months, has had to protect more areas over a greater distance with fewer platforms. What that has done is opened a lot of gaps in Russian air defense that Ukraine is able to exploit now multiple times a day. So it's not just Moscow that is a little bit more exposed. It is every target across the country. So last night, with the largest attack in Moscow and a major attack in Crimea, there was another series of strikes carried out as well. I mean, this is a pretty impressive array of offensive operations carried out by Ukraine in a short period of time. The Ukrainian Unmanned Systems Force has said during the nights of May 16th and 17th, the birds of the SBS inflicted 186 fire strikes on 46 military targets in the occupied territories of Crimea, Donetsk, and Zaporizhia. They are hitting everywhere with deep strikes. All right? So from the south to the east, well into Russian territory. From the footage released by the Unmanned Systems Forces, they say they hit a border guard ship of Project 10410 based in Dagestan, Russia, a Tor M2 air defense system, another one. Russia cannot afford to keep losing these, that one in Luhansk. A strategic protected communication node of the Black Sea Fleet in Crimea, a train full of fuel in Donetsk, a command post of the 9th Motor Rifle Brigade in Pokrovsk, a drone control center and enemy logistics depot in Donetsk, a command post of the 103rd Motor Rifle Company in Donetsk. They say step by step, the Unmanned Systems Group is weakening the enemy's combat capabilities, complicating their management, logistics, and ability to conduct organized combat operations. Genuinely, this is a turning point. And I don't think I've ever said that before. We've stressed it in videos over the course of the last couple of weeks, but this is a phase of the war that we haven't seen before. Ukraine has the initiative right now. We are watching Russian units across the front struggle to try to maintain offensive pressure, and areas in the rear further and further back with logistics being hit, making it harder to sustain troops at the front. And now we're seeing the fight brought to Moscow itself. Kind of this is one area that's been relatively pro-war since the beginning, or at least not pushing back at all. And some of the fewest conscripts, fewest soldiers going to the front are coming from the wealthy region of Moscow. So when they start to feel the pain and start to see drones flying overhead, start to see oil refineries next door going up in smoke, maybe starting to rain down those that black rain we've seen in other areas, it has the possibility of genuinely changing the direction of this war. So this 100% is something to keep an eye on. All right, and then wanted to provide you guys some updates on some fundraisers here. A couple. We had some deliveries to the 26th Field Artillery, some Lightning drones that we raised through Ziggy's Paw. Just got a note from the Ziggy's Paw team that they handed those all of those drones off. So we should have a full report here before too long. But those drones, I think it was $50,000 we raised in like a couple weeks. It was insane. Those have been purchased. They're already in use with the 26th in eastern Ukraine. The other one is Car for Ukraine. So this is one that we're running all year. It's a 430,000 euro goal, so about $500,000 in total. We're more than halfway there with 240,000 euros raised already through 2 sub-campaigns. So we got our summer campaign coming up here. I think we're going to kick it off in July, but this is one where it's open all year. So if you have an interest in contributing, that link will be in the description below. We've also got a collaboration with Car for Ukraine. We're working with some other organizations here, but the Car for Ukraine one is awesome. We teamed up with them, and we have their design on shirts and sweatshirts in my store. Car for Ukraine has these incredible designs, and they just don't sell merch. They focus on getting the vehicles to the units that need them most. So we offered to kind of host that design in our store, and then 100% of the profits from the sale of those shirts and sweatshirts go directly to Car for Ukraine. So if you want to help the 104th get more vehicles, you can go directly to that link, pick up some patches, or buy a shirt in the store. The Car for Ukraine designs, that supports these types of fundraisers as well. But that's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.